Another one is you're in Jagged Edge, which is, Glenn Close, Jeff Bridges. I mean, I that's another one that I always kind of enjoyed. Was that an enjoyable experience for you?
Oh, I loved it. I really loved tiny part.
Hmm.
Uh, my ex-husband, who is now the president of Columbia Pictures, cast me in that little part. It was his
Wow.
picture, Jagged Edge. And it's kind of one of those examples of no small parts.
Yeah,
You,
exactly.
it's 2 pages, and you just fill it. And I was working with such great actors, with Glenn and Jeff.
Hmm.
And Richard Marquand was the director. He was lovely. And I had to play who we had all discussed was she turns the tide in the case. So she kind of flips the film with her being on the stand and what she says
Hmm.
that he said to me, she is a bitch.
Wow.
She is soft spoken, but she's this. And so, what Jeff and Glenn got together and decided is that they wouldn't do my close up of that interrogation by Glenn Close that reveals the bitch of her until midnight. We kept shooting and shooting. We were shooting everybody's close ups. And I was getting kind of upset.
Oh yeah.
I was worried that for my line delivery that they'd send in a surrogate for Glenn or Jeff,
Hmm.
which can happen. I
Oh,
mean,
sure, sure.
I've done
Yeah.
that. And instead they stayed. And I was edgy. I was a little angry and they did it on purpose.
Oh,
And so after Richard got what he wanted, he told me, he said, you're just too sweet. We thought we are not going to get what we need unless we make you mad.
oh my gosh. Isn't that great though that they did? And not only that, they waited.
Yeah, they did. They did. It was a collusion of professionals who just felt that I needed help,
Yeah.
and it all conspired. And it's a quiet seething, on film, but it worked for this character superbly.
Oh, definitely. No, you're very good in that moment. Believe me. No, I agree 100% with that. Um, you did a lot of television as well. That kind of went all over the place. I mean, I saw McCloud, I saw Fantasy Island, Heart to Heart, Spencer for Hire, um,
Love Boat.
Love Boat, Dallas, Picket Fences, Star Trek. I mean, it's kind of wild. Do you remember anything from McCloud with Dennis Weaver? That's somebody as I said, I don't know if I've talked to anybody that's ever worked. Well, I take that back. I did talk with Beth Brickell from Gentle Ben, but another one I haven't released. But what do you have any recollections from McCloud?
Other than I just loved him.
Hmm.
I mean, he was, first of all, we shared a love of spirit. He was a very spiritually oriented, questing person,
Mm-hmm.
also. He was a meditator. And this is days when all this was kind of opening up, but uh, we were sort of fringe people, like people considered us fringe in our interests
Oh yeah.
because we were kind of out there with that, especially Dennis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, kindest, just gentleman. I don't know what more to say. Probably one of the best gentlemen I've ever worked with. Just
Yeah.
presence, just a lovely presence.
I could see that. No, I could totally see that, and I've heard that too about him. But like you said, like he was kind of ahead of his time on that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Heart to Heart? I think of Robert Wagner and Stephanie Powers, and I'm always like, boy, I wish I could have been there.
Well, that was fun for me because I was married at RJ Robert Wagner's house.
Oh,
So
come on.
we were very close friends, and my husband at that time was his agent.
Oh,
So that made you close. And I was close to Natalie. And
were you really?
oh, yeah, we went on the Splendor, the boat, every weekend for an entire year.
Oh
The
my God.
one weekend we did not go, which of course ended our weekends, was the weekend she drowned, because we were supposed to be on that boat. God's the big hand again, because that
Hmm.
would have trailed me for life.
Hmm.
Um, who I was married to wanted to, it was over Thanksgiving, wanted to watch football. He was a big gambler, loved sports, and didn't want to miss it. And it was overcast, kind of cold. He said, let's just not go this weekend. I was thrilled because I got seasick on every weekend.
Oh my gosh.
But we didn't go. So Sunday morning, which was going to be a big football morning of that weekend, the phone rang at 8:30 and it was RJ telling Guy that Natalie was dead and
Oh.
gone. And so we met him at the house later that day, and pretty much on and off, kept close. We lived just 2 blocks away
Mm.
till the wake and the funeral and the memorial and all that. So that was another big moment in my life, and endlessly grateful that it was canceled.
Oh,
Or
I totally see that.
And what's really interesting is every weekend before, when we'd go over and pick them up to drive to the boat, uh, the nanny for Natasha
Hmm.
would be holding Natasha, crying and crying because she kept having dreams of her mother drowning.
Oh no.
Every time we'd go to the boat, she'd be crying. The minute we'd get to the boat, Natalie would have to call ship to shore and say, Mommy's fine, we're here, everything's good. So those are
Wow.
moments.
I mean, talk about a spiritual connection right there between the daughter and even at that young age and the mom. Wow. That's really something. What was Natalie like, by the way? Like, in those moments, was she at all like we see on screen, or was she,
She was one of the most generous, nurturing, loving, adorable people, inclusive. Her house was always a place where we were with people, fascinating people. I mean, from all over the world that she'd worked with or knew. And I mean, I don't think her life had been so easy by
Mm.
any means. And her life with RJ was a blessed life. And the fact that they won't let this go, to me, is ridiculous.
No, it's been going on. I mean, it goes on and on and on. I agree.
People who keep wanting to perpetuate it for their own assumptions. They
Hmm.
weren't. And even Dennis, the captain who insists, he had his own agenda. So in all of these kinds of things, one has to navigate uh, not jumping to conclusions
Hmm.
without having deeper understanding of it all.
I hear you. I hear
And
you.
that's
Well,
definitely.
so then for you, what was that like then, I guess, to work on the show? Because obviously you were close
Oh,
with.
it was wonderful. It was wonderful. I was playing a blues singer, which, when I look back at some of the things I've played, I go, wow, wow,
Yeah,
that was pretty wild. And I love Stephanie. Stephanie's salt of the earth kind of a person.
I love it.
Um, and I love the fact that she'd been with William Holden, who I really loved.
One of my very favorites of all time as well. Yep.
Amazing. I got to meet him because Ryan did a movie with him called The Wild Rovers. So I went out to the set in Arizona to visit them and got to meet him. And just, it was significant for me because I loved everything he'd ever been in.
Oh, Golden Boy. I
One,
mean, come on.
I knew his movies,
Yep.
and a very, you used the word gallant earlier.
Hmm.
Gentleman, he was gallant, he was kind. Um, I just liked him a lot.
I love hearing that. I do. I do. And she continues on his work to this day. I mean, with
I know.
conservation work in Africa and everything like that. It's just incredible.
Mhm. She's a great gal, you
Yeah.
know. She's real, authentic, grounded, earthy.
Oh yeah.
hard for her.
I love that. I totally love it. So I mentioned Spencer for Hire. I think of Robert Urich, who unfortunately we lost very young. What was that? What was that like? He's another person I'd love to. He always had that look like, hey, like he just had it. But what was he like when he was, I guess on the set? What was that like?
That was on the East Coast. I think we shot that in Boston
I
or
could see that.
Philadelphia, one of those cities. I don't remember which. And that's another one I can't believe I did, but did. Um, I don't even remember my character at all. I have no idea
Wow.
who I was playing. So it's kind of hard to answer that
Yeah, that's
question.
okay. I like honesty. I get it. You've had it,
I
and like
know
I said from
very
the start,
well.
you've had
Yeah,
so many experiences. You and I could be talking for 24 hours and we never get through it all. So believe me, I get it. What what about uh Dallas? Your character Kimberly Kreider, I believe is your
oh, she's one of
character.
my favorite characters. With a career span, you do have favorite
Oh,
characters.
sure.
I have one, I can't remember the name of the series that I did in Canada. Uh, I remember my character so well. I love that character. I love Kimberly Kreider. She was wild. This is the 80s. It's Dallas
Oh,
glamour,
it's as
red
big as
nails,
Peyton Place was or whatever.
the
Yeah.
hair, hair, shoulders out to here,
Yeah.
pearls, diamonds, you name it. Texas in its glory,
Oh yeah.
Dallas, and let alone the JR character. What a character.
Oh, come on.
What a character. The first day we're shooting, uh, it takes you a while to get into a character. You've got to get in their skin, their clothes, build a backstory. Who are you relating to? That's how
Do
I
you
work
write a bio? Do you do like an actor's bio? Yeah.
on the character, and then working with who I'm working with, Larry,
Hmm.
uh, which was perfect because again, there was such similarity between Larry and JR because JR was a rascal and Larry was a rascal.
Yeah.
And so we're in having this very romantic, kind of titillating dialogue, seductive. And I'm very wealthy. And my father, who he knows, is a big oil man, company man. And he wants to take my father's company, and I want to take his company.
Oh my gosh.
So none of that agenda is spoken. It's all about being attractive. And at the table, there's champagne, and I didn't drink at all. And so I figured it was bubble water. So when you're marking the moments when you might pick up your glass, look at them, have a sip, I'd have a sip and it was champagne. And
Oh my gosh.
that use everything to your advantage moment, which is okay, don't act like a moron here and spit it at him, drink it, swallow. And so when we had a break, I said, do you think I could have some bubble water? And he said, no, this is what we're doing. And I went, okay. And so we shot the scene, and I get kind of
Oh,
hot, you know, I'm
oh,
not with it.
especially champagne and the bubbles go right to your brain.
Yes. And so I say it worked for that scene? Yes, but I now knew that that was the last I was going to do that. And Larry wouldn't kiss you. He was one of those hygiene crazy people where
Oh,
you can't use the same napkin, or so he would carry it was a little disconcerting, a little automated fan. And if you had an intimate moment, he would, during rehearsal, he'd hold up the fan just to blow away germs.
oh
And
my gosh, you're kidding. I never had heard that one. Oh wow.
what did you call a bit of a germaphobe,
Yeah, that's
And
wild.
I respected it. I had no problem
Oh
with
yeah.
it. I just wasn't going to drink alcohol. And but my character became very popular to the audience because she was a feminine rascal
Yep.
who would use all her wiles. We have a scene that is, talk about classic TV, if you could ever see it. I
Sure.
don't know what season it was in. I'm in a massive bubble bath. My hair, my red curls up here, long red nails, drinking champagne bubble. And we were supposed to do the scene in the tub together, but he wouldn't do that. So he's sitting in a robe watching me have a bubble bath, which we figured worked just as well,
Yeah.
having this very sharp, witty, sexy conversation about Westar. And I just had fully embraced this character. I mean, I was just in this character. I love to watch the scene of myself because it's like, boy, you really went there. And then there's a moment, it's a giant bathtub, and a moment the phone rings, and it's at a very peak of this kind of conversation. I kind of swim over
Oh my
to
gosh.
this elegant phone, pick it up and say hello. And it's Sue Ellen. And I look at him and I say, it's your wife. No, it was all that kind of fun. It was
Oh yeah.
fun to play her. And she ends up taking away Westar.
Oh boy.
And I have an assumptive opinion that Larry didn't particularly appreciate that.
Hmm.
So I I was given notice that I would finish the season. That would be it. And then, but they gave me one great moment where he kind of ups her in the game of Westar. And I go in to say goodbye to him, and I'm wearing like an illegal fur, like a chinchilla or
Yeah,
something,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
but I'm naked underneath.
yeah. Of course. I knew
I,
you were gonna say.
I go in and I talk to him and I say, you're making a big mistake. You're going to be really sorry. I'm going to show you just how sorry you're going to be. And she opens the coat
Oh.
and it drops it down. And his take is really fun. Obviously, I wasn't naked.
No,
They
I know, I
they
know.
do all kinds of things to take care of you. I was uncomfortable. This was a stretch for me, but it was so her character.
Yeah, of course.
So that was my final moment, that she gets to walk away with his reaction.
Oh,
And
is that
oh, it
wild?
was a crazy show, wild show, fun show. I loved all the characters. I loved crew, director. I loved it all.
Yeah, yeah.
We shot a lot in Texas, which was fun.
That is fun. I've had quite a few of the cast members on actually. Patrick Duffy's been on, and
Yeah,
Steve Canale's been on, and uh, Sherry J. Wilson has been on it. Just they've talked a lot about it, and it's interesting that you mentioned that champagne moment because Patrick Duffy told me that they would get together every morning in Larry's dressing room, and he would pop open a bottle of champagne.
right.
And yeah, and Patrick said, "Look, I would have a drink, but I wasn't like a big drinker. But that Larry would it was like all day, just have
They
his all day.
have boxes of, I'm sure there's a name I can't remember, that is
Yeah,
the ultimate in champagne, Dom Perignon, delivered into the makeup room, and they would take it, bottles of it, take it to his dressing room. So, I mean, he had a liver transplant
yes,
life. So he had consequences for it.
yes.
But it was an idiosyncrasy, shall we say.
Yep, it's who he was. It's that easy. It was kind of like part of him. It's that easy. The other one, going back in your career, that I never saw this by the way, and I have to admit I need to go back and watch this, is The Gang That Couldn't Shoot with Robert De Niro. I was like, I'm a huge Robert De Niro fan. I never saw that film. I did not know about that. I mean, going back and I looked, I mean, he must have been very early in his career. Um, what was, well, first of all, what was that like the first time you met him? And then did you have any sense that, hey, this guy's got something?
Oh gosh, this is a big story. Fun story, I think.
Yeah.
I was sort of on a crest, and he was very new. He had just come off a couple of short movies he did with Martin Scorsese. One was called Birthday Card, the other was, I can't remember the name of it.
Hmm.
He did his first movie was Shelley Winters. It was like a baseball movie. And
Interesting.
I was the second movie. And then, of course, his star began to
Hmm.
significantly carry on. Um, so the director, who was kind of new to film, uh, it proved to be sort of challenging in the end. But this was a very odd movie based on the book, The Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight. Jimmy Breslin, maybe,
Oh, it was Jimmy Breslin. Yeah.
very famous New York writer,
Mhm.
and it's now translated to this film. And a very odd story about a young Italian who's never been to America, who's a kleptomaniac, but who is a bicycle rider. And they're going to have a big race in New York City, and they bring him over from Italy. And so he very soon meets this young Italian girl who is the daughter of the mafia boss, which is me. Jo Van Fleet plays my grandmother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jerry, who was on Dick Wolf's show forever,
Oh,
Orbach,
Orbach.
Jerry Orbach,
Yeah.
who was my first crush when I was 12, seeing him on Broadway in Carnival. It
Wow.
he was such a fixture in New York. And now he's playing this mafia don, my older brother. Yeah, my older brother. And the De Niro character meets me. Well, everybody's accent in this movie is what I call Red Hook Brooklyn. If you go to Brooklyn and that part of Brooklyn, it's an accent that's hard to describe. It is so Brooklyn.
Wow.
And they hired a girl to teach me this accent in a way that could be subtle, but still make the point that
Mhm.
it wouldn't be jarring that I wasn't her.
Yeah,
So
that's a big deal though. Yeah.
now, so the very first day of meeting Bobby was with the director at the Stanhope Hotel. We were going to do a table read. I had not yet worked with anybody. I had arrived 2 days before, settled in. This is the table read. I walk in, and Bobby has his Italian accent down. He's prepared. He's got it all. I was like a little overwhelmed because I hadn't had a chance to catch up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was very introverted. He wouldn't kind of look at me when we were introduced. Yep and nope. Yep. And sat with the scripts and did kind of a table read with full glorious accent. Me, I don't have any accent. And then the director says, I think what would be great is we do an improvisation here. I'm going to send you out into New York and assign you to be your characters. So Leigh, I want you to be her role in the film, and Bobby, your role. Just take a bus down Fifth Avenue and go explore New York as your characters.
Who does that? That's amazing.
Now, inside me, I'm going, oh my God, I'm with this person who is so won't even talk to me.
Yeah.
And I'm very, what is it when you're just sort of like, whoa, it's an overwhelm. But
Yeah.
we get on the bus, and it worked for me very quickly. I got this character doesn't know, and he was writing character. Wow, look at this. He's never been to New York before. And I moved into kind of a protector, uh, mentor kind of character, which
Hmm.
was she was. And we go all the way down towards the where Macy's was.
Yeah, sure. I know where it is.
Crossover, and he's looking at everything, and I'm showing him things. He starts to go into places, and I pull him out because he's going into a porno theater. I said, no, we're going this way. She's kind of directing his traffic, if you will, and
Wow.
he's kind of the innocent. Her character doesn't know that he's a kleptomaniac.
Oh, I get you now.
So now we go into Macy's, and he's never seen a department store. And I'm showing him around, thoroughly enjoying his everything. And I'm finding really lovely things in my character with this. And we tour around the ground floor of Macy's, and we go back out on the street. We go about 20 feet, and this hand grabs my neck and turns me around. And I think Bobby was here and turns him around. and it's a cop.
Oh
And,
no.
and opens Bobby's coat, and he's lifted a shirt and some other things tucked into his pants.
Oh my gosh, he's so in character. He actually did it.
He did it. He took it.
No.
And so we are marched, may I say, back to Macy's, taken to the elevator up to the 6th floor, which is a jail.
A jail
And
in Macy's.
yeah, a jail up there. And we're met, and he says, and he shows, and Bobby is horrified. Now, me, I'm kind of like, wow, this is kind of fun. Thought it was kind of fun. They emptied
Wow.
out my bag. I had all my per diem in there. I had about $5,000 in cash, sunflower seeds, because I was into alternative eating, whatever.
Oh my gosh.
And they emptied out Bobby, and he lived on 14th Street, and I was staying at this house. And I said, here's the name of the producer. Call him. We're doing a movie. This is a big mistake. I was the one who could kind of talk, and sat us down, booked us, thumbprinted us, the whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
Matron, a rather large woman of color, comes out, and I have to be searched. And I was searched. And still I'm thinking, wow, I've never had this experience. I'm sitting there with Bobby, who is under duress. He was a New Yorker. I think maybe New Yorkers have more, I don't know what it would be, but concern for this, trouble, whatever.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh, they tracked down the producer. Eventually, we were freed. But I mean, that was my favorite improvisational moment ever.
Oh, come on. I mean, I've never heard of somebody doing that. That's actually quite incredible.
Yeah, it was incredible. And so I knew right then that I was dealing with a version of a master, if you will. I
Hmm.
mean, and I was on my toes from the beginning. I worked on my voice. They had also asked me to gain like 15 pounds.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I was a slender girl, and I thought, oh, well, that's not a big deal. So they wanted a kind of a plumpish Italian girl.
Yeah.
Did it, and then, oh, was it hard to get off. It took me 2 years.
Oh my
It
gosh.
really was hard to get off. I would never advise this to any actor to gain weight.
Mm-hmm.
I know Bobby had a very hard time when he did it, um, for the fight movie.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
so
Raging Bull.
Raging Bull, it was very hard, very, very hard. Easy to do, hard to take off, because you've put a patterning in motion with the
Hmm.
E, and something in the body says, oh, okay, I like this, we'll do this. Then you have to convince your body and your discipline and your psyche, no, we're not doing this anymore. That
Mm.
leap, not easy. But at any rate, I loved making the movie with him. I loved him. And I considered him a very important time in my life of learning and growth.
Did you, during the filming, did the two of you start to, communicate? I mean, was he always in character, or did you start to actually get to know each other?
No, we got to know each other. We were a relationship for a while.
Oh,
uh,
wow. During the movie or after?
During
Hmm.
the movie, and became great friends. At the end of the movie, there was this long period. He got really angry with me because I was I was still coming out of a divorce. I was not stable in myself. I wanted to find that stability.
Hmm.
So I feel this was going to be helpful. But I adored him. I was just very honest, like kind of like I'm reading a book.
Hmm.
Uh, you
Yeah.
know, my heart, and kind of upset with me. And I would see him then when he's now a superstar, and I'm married to a head of a studio. I would see him at Hollywood parties on a very high level, and it was kind of cool. And then we have a mutual friend, Sally Kirkland.
Oh, sure. I know Sally Kirkland is. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd always said, I would love to see you do a comedy. And then he did the comedy with Billy Crystal.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. 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 Yeah.
I laughed so hard. And Sally said she'd been talking to him I said, would you just tell him for me, I'm so happy. It's hysterical. It's absolutely the best. So he asked to speak to me. So I called him and talked to him. He said, I'm coming out. I'd love to see you. This would be 30 years later.
Oh, is that wild?
And so he did. He came to my house for some dinner and we talked. And he said, I just want to say I'm sorry. He said, I came to say I'm sorry. And I understood what he was saying because I was so sensitive at the time. And, he knew how to do Italian mad.
Hmm. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I don't think they take it that seriously, but to someone like me, it was hard. And he just said, I knew that was not the thing to do. And I didn't want life to complete without telling you I'm sorry. And it
Ah,
was so touching. And then he was tired. He fell asleep in my chair by the fireplace. And I just sat at his feet meditating. And he woke up and he said, that's the sweetest nap I've ever taken. And we just had the sweetest goodbye. I never saw him again. That was it. I just always send him light and love. As when the fabric of your life crosses in the tapestry, the threads,
yes, I do know.
to me, it's always sacred.
Yeah.
It's lost. It's in the tapestry.
It's also nice to have a moment of that closure too, you know,
Yes,
whether it
yes.
be 30 years or 10 years or whatever it is.
Admire him forever for that. That
Wow.
in his psyche said, I want to make that right.
Hmm.
And then did.
Ah, that's so cool. I love moments like that. So, the other one that caught me is I had just watched this again recently was Klute with Jane Fonda, and then I'm reading your stuff, and I'm like, you gave up Klute? I understand like where you were, in your life and all that, but what do you look back on that at all, or ever think
Oh,
like, what was I
my
thinking?
agent at the time, Guy, had a similar reaction. Like, what? Are you kidding me? And I said, I have to go to India. I have to.
Yeah.
It's a bigger call for me. And then it went to Jane. She won an Academy Award and so well deserved.
Ah,
I'm her big fan on many levels. And I remember in the 60s when I'd go to early parties and I'm 21 or 22, and Jane was with uh, Donald Sutherland
yeah. Yeah.
these days. And I remember looking at the two of them thinking, that's two of the most unusually beautiful people I've ever seen.
Yeah, well said. Yeah. Yeah, true. Yeah. Oh, is that funny? What, by the way, and I do want to talk about the spiritual side of your life by all means, because I think it obviously encompasses a great deal. But one thing that I thought about too is Andy Warhol at one point, you become like part of that world a bit. How, how was that? Well, first of all, how did that happen? And I mean that kind of in an interesting way because you have such a naivete or like I don't know, it's just more of like a genuineness
I'm just,
about you that I'm like, how the heck did you end up around Andy Warhol? You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, gosh, there's lots of threads to that story. In New York, as an artist, actress doing a movie, you meet other artists and actors. It's sort of your tribe.
Yeah.
And Andy was almost like a street person. He was everywhere. You could see him walking up Madison Avenue at 4 o'clock in the morning, but of course that meant you were there at 4 o'clock in the
Right,
morning.
right. Good point.
Uh, and I don't remember quite how that started. I do know that at the premiere of Alice B. Toklas in New York, Andy came and I was wearing a very short skirt and someone in the paparazzi, because in the movie I have a butterfly tattoo
Hmm.
of I love you, Alice B. Toklas, high on my thigh. And so some of the paparazzi gave him a pen and said, would you paint a butterfly on her thigh? And here's Andy with ultraviolet, Gerard Malenga. Uh, I forget who the other great transvestite was. She was wonderful. I can't remember her. She had big, red, beautiful lips, blonde. At any rate, and here's Andy painting and me painting a butterfly on my thigh. But I was wearing stockings because I was a bit shy of all this still. So
Yeah,
I was
that's what I
wearing
mean. I'm like,
stockings and
what?
he's painting it on my stocking. And I remember later someone said, by any chance, do you know where those stockings are?
Yeah.
I said, no, I might have thrown them away. And they go, what? You did what? But at any rate, that's where I first met Andy that night.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met Gerard Malenga. And Gerard is a poet, a great photographer. And he was always with Andy, and he did a lot of the original silk screens. The reproductions that Andy did would do the original, and then Gerard would do the reproduction silk screen.
Interesting.
And and so I developed a relationship with Gerard, loved him as a poet, photographer, sensitive. We became best friends.
Hmm.
And so I would go out with him. I just didn't do drugs or alcohol, but
Yeah.
oh my God, was it interesting. It was like entering a vortex of a whole other dimensional reality,
Yeah.
always recording people. He recorded everything. He carried around a recording cassette player. You always had to be prepared that if you were with Andy, he was going to record everything you said,
Oh my
everything,
gosh. Oh my gosh.
even normal ordering in a restaurant. And so I just grew to know them all and love them. Um,
Was he, I mean, he's like an enigma. I mean, literally. What was, did you ever like really get to know who Andy was?
no, um, I didn't. And I actually felt no need to know him.
Hmm.
It was like you were watching an icon move through life. I
Mhm.
wasn't aware, oh, this is the great icon, the great artist
Mhm.
at all. It was just Andy to me. And that's always been often the case for me when I've been in situations.
Mhm.
I come to it, it seems, quite uh, unimprinted.
Mhm.
So I'm very open and just there. And but but I found Andy very benign.
Mhm.
You know, I never found him hostile or mean or anything like that. He
Mhm.
didn't talk much, but he had kind of a high pitched voice. And his group around him, though, were very attuned to him.
Yeah.
Uh, they were they would hang out in this big loft in the village where he would make small movies and or paint. Um, but he knew how to be around celebrities. Uh,
Mhm.
everything was a celebrity, and celebrities wanted to be around him.
Yep.
Almost like because he recorded it for everybody to be in his magazine or in a movie or something. Um, maybe I don't know what it was. It was sort of like a kind of hypnotism.
Yeah, seriously.
It was mysterious, magnetic, uh, and they'd always figure out to go out to the Hamptons, and then they'd be out there or back in the city, Max's Kansas City, which was kind of a late night place. We would all go like at 2 in the morning. Um, and uh, Patti Smith, I met Patti Smith in those days, just loved her.
Oh.
She was with Sam Shepard in the village.
Oh, geez.
Deep
Another
in the
great.
day, Sam was down there writing and doing a play. I can't remember it now. Um, and Patty was there, and they're all late night people.
Hmm.
They would really begin to gather more after midnight.
Wow.
Uh, it was the ultimate artistic nightlife of New York, and
Yeah.
I felt very blessed that I got to be amongst it for the time I was until I came back here.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, we've talked about a ton, and like I said, but I really feel it's a disservice if I don't address. A lot of times I say to people, "Hey, we're at the end of the interview. Are there any special organizations you know, charities or anything like that?" But in your case, I feel slightly different from that. I feel like you have been on like a spiritual quest, as we said early in the interview. I feel like for a long, long time. I mean, it's kind of funny. You've had this incredible success as an actress. You've worked with some incredible people, but a lot of times I feel like it's almost been kind of like it's there and that's good. But really what I'm trying to do is this. And so one, have you found it finally for yourself? Do you feel like that quest never ends? Where are you at on all of that?
Well, it never ends because we're alive
Yeah.
and we are souls having a human experience. So until we pass from this world, we're in motion. And to me, every day is a choice of how I have the authority over my attitude. I have the authority over what I choose in that day. To me, I always like to say that the superpower of every human is choice. You get to choose, am I going to be happy or sad? Happy isn't just a consequence of the perfect moment. Happy is a choice.
Hmm.
Uh, Loving is a choice, not just, oh, it just erupts and there you have loving. No, loving is a choice we make. So I see being a human being as a management situation. How am I going to manage this humanity that I'm being given at this time to live through and be, and have it be a loving one? And we don't always feel loving as humans. So we come in with certain karmas, things to work out, and we need to work them out. Well, how do we do that? We have to be conscious, we have to be aware, learn, grow, use everything to our advancement to grow, and then make better choices. To me, the better choices are how to be a loving, peaceful human who just, however I can do it, makes the world a better place. Not with this grandiose, I'm carrying a flag, going to make the world a better place, but it's just how I am. Do I smile at that person who just took my parking place?
Yeah.
Or am I going to honk and do some, am I going to, how am I going to choose to be? There's this great, I don't know if Gandhi said it, someone said it, be basically be the peace you want to see, be
Mhm.
the loving you want to receive. We are responsible for this. And I think it's a huge responsibility. I don't think it's easy because we're navigating all kinds of things. We're navigating, can we survive? Can we pay the bills? Are we doing the job we love? Can we get the job we'd like to have? Are we in a good relationship, toxic relationship? If not, how can I make it better? Am I being a good parent? I mean, these are big things humans deal with. And then in the midst of it, to say, I want to love God and be connected to God and spirit. I'm not speaking religiously, although I have regard for all religions
Mhm.
because set down principles that are important. And
Mhm.
then if people take them as a tool to be against someone else, to me, they fail.
I agree with you on that.
If it's my God loves your God, let's do it all in loving together.
Mhm.
I respect you. Let's find a way to have our differences find
Mhm.
an answer that
Sure.
doesn't put us against each other.
Yeah, use
That's
it to advance, not to hurt. Yeah.
yeah. Which means that we have to have the capacity to look at others, really see into them, really care,
Hmm.
even in the midst of difference. When the static is the worst, how can we change the static? How can we just change the field to where we can even take the next step towards something better? That's not always easy, but it's doable. I
Hmm.
use something, the light. I call in the light. I call it the light of the Holy Spirit, the light of God, and I just quietly ask for it, no matter the situation, to plant my own version of a field that has loving in it.
Hmm.
I always find that we can change the atmosphere. We really have that power.
Hmm.
but we choose to learn what that power is and exercise it in a way that's for the highest good of everybody. And I don't think any of this is easy, but
No.
as a young child, with what I was seeing and being really sensitive and attuned, I said, I want to learn, I want to get this. Uh, no, just basically, I had a very, as a young child, a very mystical nature, I would say, from distance looking back. I would feel things, see things, hear things that were other than the regular.
Hmm.
And it kind of guided me to want to spend time alone so I could listen better, want to read things that inspired me and taught me outside of the pedestrian's schooling.
Hmm.
I wanted to grasp what life was on all the levels I could. So that's been my aspiration. I have had phenomenal teachers. I've been blessed. One was Indian, Muktananda,
Hmm.
uh, Yogananda when I was a young girl. These great teachers to me are the ones who know, and they demonstrated. Then in my more adult life, I met a man named John Roger
Hmm.
who totally exploded my life in that way. Uh, Both ordinary in the ordinary, but the extraordinary of the living spirit, let's say.
Hmm.
So I became involved with something called the movement of spiritual inner awareness, which is about the spirit's always on the move. It's always expanding. It's
Hmm.
always in motion. And that appeals to Leigh. Leigh
Yeah.
always likes those options, that movability, that expansiveness. So I've been involved with what we call MSIA now for 50 years.
Wow. That's a long time.
I I've always been willing to say, God, if there's something better of a greater good for me, show me. But I've never found anything better because this is so expansive.
Hmm.
And
Well, like you
it's,
said from the start, that always appealed to you, that sense of freedom, openness. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, it's
I
really
got
guided my way. Like I have a North Star, and actually, my North Star is my heart. You know, I reference my heart, what I call my spiritual heart. Like, is this what would loving have me do here?
you.
What would love ask of me? Right now, as a human, I don't know the answer, but what would love? And I know loving is always sure and loving is always correct. It
Yep.
is the for me. So I honor that truth and I work to live that way. And like everybody, I'm in self-correction a lot
Sure,
because
sure. At least you can recognize that though.
know the human condition, like, oh gosh, I surely could have done that better.
Yeah.
And then I just go back to the drawing board and take a look at that. What can I learn from that? That would
Mhm.
lead to that better choice that makes me fully attune with myself.
Have you ever thought about writing a book uh, with all this? Because it's a lot, but have you?
Yes, I have, and I'm in process of doing that. Uh,
Okay.
but I overwhelm myself because there's so much
Yeah.
and what to share. But that would be the through line of it.
Well, good. I hope that you do end up writing a book because it sounds like there's a lot there. And but I can also understand the challenge of that too. So I get it.
Yeah. I'd love to share my website for people if they'd
Oh,
like.
thank you. Thank you, Leigh. I'm so glad you brought that up. We've talked about so much. Yeah, please do.
I would love to share it. In terms of writing, wherever there's writing in it, I wrote everything as an exercise and writing on that on the website again as a exercise to share my life with people. But the website is my initials lty.com.
Yeah,
It's
and
easy.
by the way, I read through a lot of it and it is terrific. So for everybody out there, check it out. It's some great stories in there. Yeah.
Uh, John, thank you for allowing me to be myself with you. It's really a beautiful environment you create for people to just share.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. You have no idea. That means a lot to me. And and you know what? I enjoy it. I mean, it's sincere.
Uh,
So
Then it becomes a wonderful conversation, heart to heart, because your questions were so authentic from you. not pedestrian, just are having a great conversation. And it's a lot because of you. So thank you.
Oh, you got it, Leigh. Thank you so much. And I appreciate your openness beyond belief. And I've had a blast. I just wish you more on your journey and more of just taking it all in life. I think it's awesome. So thank you.
Bless everybody. I'm glad to be with you. Okay.
All right. Bye-bye, Leigh. Thanks
Bye.
so much. Well, thanks for listening, and definitely hit the subscription button. As well, hit the notification bell so that you'll know when my next episode is released. In addition, check out some of my other interviews if you haven't had a chance. Eric Roberts, Henry Winkler, Jerry Mathers from Leave It to Beaver. There's so many. Enjoy.